have to be ready, and in some cases, it's not going to be nice. The fight's coming to you on a whole different level. They're loaded for bear. Joe Resinello.
Frontline with Joe and Joe Pasillo, as always.
They're not going to take this lying down.
On the Crusade Channel, always on air, and always online at crusadechannel.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, oh man, are we going into the breach on the Crusade Channel.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. Remember, we always encourage all of you out there, go on the website, go on crusadechannel.com. You're allowed to kick the tires, look under the hood. This is what Mike Church allows you to do because he's running a great station there. He knows if you listen to everything going on, not just the front line with Joe and Joe, you're going to like what you hear and you're going to want to subscribe. We all say all the time that we need to support all of those out there in our ways. You know, we're going against social media, even though we use social media to the best of our ability. We're going against mainstream media. In all of our little ways, we are spreading the truth. And that's what's a danger to the left out there. So we really encourage you all to get involved with the Crusade Channel at crusadechannel.com. Joe Resinello, this is going to be a really good conversation. I was looking forward, Joe, all week to this conversation because, you know, everybody out there knows at the Crusade Channel, we mostly talk about things that involve our eternal salvation. All these things tie, Joe, if you will, into our eternal salvation. But that doesn't mean that the politics and the day-to-day lives, our lives, how we live them, our family, society, culture, all of it. We as Catholic men, we have to talk about everything. So tonight, we're really going to talk about the realignment. It's interesting, Joe. I think I've said on this show before at the Crusade Channel that I thought this realignment would come along a long time ago. I think it's happening now, and that's what we're going to talk about, where the Democrats, who used to be the party of the working man, you like to say all the time, the Democrat Party ain't the party of your old Irish grandfather, the stevedore, working down at the docks in Port Newark, okay, or the Italian guy who was the teamster, for Consolidated Freightways. That ain't your party. This party has now become different. And Joe, you're going to get into that. So we're definitely going to talk about that because I think that's very important for everybody to know and talk about. Ron DeSantis, again, we're going to talk about Ron DeSantis. Joe, you want to know why? I'm not in the tank for Donald Trump. I want to vote for somebody who's going to carry our agenda forward. And I think DeSantis, for everything he's done up to this point, is doing that, and he's continuing to do that. And we're going to talk about that, okay? And also teachers' unions. And we always have to talk about the teachers' unions. But, Joe, they're a little cheesed off because guess what? They're taking a big hit in the culture war also. So now to start the conversation, we're going to jump right in, okay? Listen, Joe, the Democrat Party is becoming the party of the elite, has been so now for quite some time, is doing so and will continue to do so. And they're leaving behind their working class roots. And it ain't just you and I saying it. Joe, who else is saying it? And we want to play a clip.
Van Jones.
Danger of becoming a party of the very high and the very low. If you pull out the working class, you've got people who are very well educated and very well off. Those people talk funny. Latinx, I've never met a Latinx. I've never met a BIPOC. I've never met, all this weird stuff that these highly educated people say. It's bizarre. Nobody talks that way at the barbershop, the nail salon, the grocery store, the community center. But that's how we talk now. So that's weird. And then the people who are very low down on the economic ladder need a bunch of stuff. You wind up over-promising, we're going to give you reparations to people at the bottom of the economic ladder, talking weird to appeal to people at the top of the economic ladder, and the working class walks away from you. That is the danger we're facing.
Joe Rossinello, I want your comments. I want to say this. I didn't like Van Jones when he first came on the scene and he became very well known. I didn't like the guy. I thought he was just a typical, just going to go talking points, the CNN, MSNBC. Not so, Joe. In fairness to Van Jones, the dude does look at things fairly objectively, even though we would probably disagree with him politically. He was telling the truth in that clip. And I really love for you to kick off this part of the conversation because what he said is the reality of the situation right now.
Well, listen, he's a Democrat and he wants to win. It comes down to winning in everything. They're not playing to win. They're lost in their own ideology. Keep this in mind. While Barack Obama won 2 terms as the president, he lost the House and Senate 6 of the 8 terms.
Yes.
He was not a successful president when it came to legislation.
Joe, piggyback off that. What was his record? Remind everybody.
The Supreme Court, the worst record in modern presidential history. I'm not making this up. They're lost in their own ideology. This is what happened to the Tory party in England. These are people, to Van Jones's point, BIPOC. What is that? I don't know what a BIPOC is. I'm being completely honest.
Joe, please speak. Joe, please speak to the looks on everybody's faces in that clip.
Correct.
Because Van Jones, not for nothing, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. He showed quite a bit of stones doing that in the setting he was in. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think the gentleman's name is Berman, who's I don't recall his first name. They're uncomfortable because they have a look of uncomfort on their face because he's saying the truth. I mean, period. And it's not favorable to them. They have to dial it back, and they're not going to, sadly. You see, this is where, and I recently did a clip on this, this is where basically ideology is trumping results. It's trumping results. They know the results, but it's full steam ahead. It's full steam ahead. They know the misery that's going on in the middle class with regard to inflation, with regard to grocery bills, with regard to gas prices, with regard to rampant crime because they dialed back budgets. I see that every day when I go into New York. They took away $1 billion from the police budget. They know the results, but it doesn't matter. Why? Because ideology counts. But what Van Jones is saying is this. People are onto you, and we're going to lose. We're going to lose. They're counting on the press. They're counting on the press.
They really are.
Pravda on the Potomac, and they
really
brainwash everybody, and everyone just parrots the talking point, and they can't get it through their head. Most Democrats, by the way, I just read this, 1 million people, it didn't say specifically if it was Democrats or independents, have switched to the Republican Party. That's
a fact, Joe.
That's on record.
That is a fact, and that's got them quaking. Okay, let's continue at the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online, about what other things have them quaking. Democrats are quickly, now this is in Breitbart, John Binder in Breitbart, okay? This is him. The Democrats, along the lines of what Van Jones was saying, are quickly becoming the party of upscale voters, while Republicans set their sights on a populist, multiracial. Again, that's very important because that blows up the leftist narrative that Donald Trump and, let's say, America Firsters are racist. Okay, multiracial coalition of working class voters. Democrats are now most favored by white college-educated Americans, as Republicans are, and here's the danger for the Democrats, Joe, and what has them quaking, are increasingly favored by the nation's non-college educated voters and Hispanic Americans. Joe, I'm going to throw something out to you. Do you hear the vitriol that comes out of the left when Trump was talking about the border wall? If Hispanic Americans, who are predominantly Catholic and pretty much overwhelmingly Christian in general, knew what the Democrat Party stands for and voted against them as they would if they actually knew what they stood for, the Democrats would be the first ones calling for a border wall. They'd say, kick those Hispanics back south of the border. The only reason they want them to come in, they keep them stupid and uninformed, okay? And then they rely on them for votes because they put them on the dole, okay? But if Hispanics knew what the Democrat Party stood for, they wouldn't vote for them for dog catcher. Okay, and the Democrats would be the first ones calling for a border wall. That's just my comment on that. Your comments, Joe
Well,
Resinello.
I mean, listen, Hispanics are the only people who have children in America. Let's
Hey,
be honest
really,
with you. I
seriously.
mean, and in many cases, they're the ones down the road in the future who will vote. I mean, and most of them, I've told this story on the show in the past. I mean, I had my fence worked on a while ago. I was talking to one of the laborers, and he was from Central America. I'm like, "How many kids you have?" He's like, "5." I mean, here's a guy. He's like working on a fence. He's got 5 kids. He probably lives in Patterson or Passaic near me. This is who they're counting on to vote. But ultimately, let's be honest. What are they doing for them? And to your point, Joe, it's all about Arizona and Texas. I've said this time and time and time and time again. They want them to vote. You see, it's all about the gimmick. Their ideas stink. Listen, guys, I'm not just saying this like as a Republican, because frankly, I'm not a Republican. I
You're a
am an
conservative.
objective voter. And to be honest with you, Republicans make me sick too. I'm just saying this purely from a ledger perspective, left side, right side. Your ideas stink, guys. They're not helping middle class people. And here's another thing, they know it. They see what's going on. You cannot tell me that a middle class person, let me just define the average middle class person from Hawaii to Maine. Guy works at UPS. He works as a driver. He's got 3 kids. His wife's a nurse, and they live in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell me that $5 a gallon in gas is helping that guy? That was a choice. That was a choice that this administration made. Don't buy into the bull crap that it's Russia. Don't buy into the bull crap that the oil companies are gouging, and they are to a degree. But why are they gouging? They set the stage for it. The administration did this. Why? Because they want an energy shift, and they're willing to let you suffer. If you're fine with that, then vote for them.
Right.
And keep paying out your, you know what? Because here's the thing, the upper middle class, the upper class, and the elites can afford the inflation. And
Right.
that's why they're pushing it. Do you
Well-
think Stephen Colbert cares about
No.
$5? Do you think
No.
that Joe Biden's son cares that gas costs $5? Do you
He's
think
more
Barack
worried about doing-
Joe daughters care?
Joe,
No.
listen. Joe Biden's son's worried more about where he's going. And listen, I don't say this in a bad way, because listen, Hunter Biden is, as far as I'm concerned, he's a baptized Catholic. Okay, I pray for him. I pray for his father. I pray for Jill Biden, because they're all so lost and delusional. That dude, the only thing he's actually worried about, unfortunately, he's an addict. Joe, we grew up with them. We grew up with kids who became addicts. He's roughly our age. That dude's in bad shape. Okay, but you're right. He doesn't give a crap about gas. Nor does Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. They don't care about it. Under Joe Biden, according to Joel Binder, the Democrats have shifted away from pocketbook issues like inflation, okay, and mass immigration. And now they're moving towards social justice. Like they want to promote, Joe, we say it all the time, 7-year-old boys could become 7-year-old girls. They want to promote critical race theory, which we know is a lie, which judges people on the color of their skin and not the content of their character. They want to promote gun control. They want to promote abortion. Joe, we said it before. You and I are not in the mainstream on abortion, but you want to know the truth? The hard left, they're not in the mainstream of abortion either. The sad part is, Joe Resinello, at the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online. Okay. Abortion doesn't matter to most people. I wish it did. You wish it did. My church wish it did. Okay. All the good people at the Crusade Channel, we wish it was a major issue. Okay. But it's not. And it's a loser for the Democrats. You want to know why? Because if you say, Joe, let's say, and I'm going to hand it over to you, if you're running for Congress and you say, I'm pro-life, I'm an abolitionist, I'm an abortion abolitionist, and you're running against a leftist who's in favor of abortion up till the moment of birth, okay? On that issue, Joe, you'll win if you're the conservative who's against abortion, because guess what? Your choices are too extremes, and most people would say, I don't really care more about abortion too much anyway. So therefore, I'll vote for Joe Pasillo because his extremism at least protects babies. But most people, Joe, don't care about it. They don't care about abortion. And the Democrats, and again, gun rights. You know how many Democrats, Joe, own guns? They're like, what is taking away my gun going to do to prevent a school shooting, let's say? And some of these critical race theory, Joe, most people know that critical race theory is racism. I don't like, Joe, by the way, I don't like using the term reverse racism. There is no such thing. It's either racist or it's not. There is no reverse race. I hate that word, reverse. If you don't like somebody because of the color of their skin, whether you're a black guy who doesn't like a white guy or a white guy who doesn't like a black guy, okay, you're just a racist. That's all there is to it. I don't really bother with words like, but the thing is, the Democrats, and I want to hand it over to you, Joe, the Democrats have focused on these things, and guess what? They're losers. They're losers. And Republicans better get their heads out of their butt, because the bread and butter issues are winners, and the Democrats lose on those two.
Well, I think the woke balloon is losing air. I mean, there's no question about that. The cracks have been showing. It's losing air, but that's not really what's getting people. Why those million people have changed parties, to the Republican Party is simply this: they can't afford their food. They can't fill up their gas. I mean, their ideas, and that's an ideology. It's an energy ideology.
Right,
Listen,
right.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have no problem with electric cars. I don't own one, but if the technology was there and it was affordable, I'm all in. Why
Sure.
not? I'm all for the earth. I recycle. I have to be a good steward. I'm a Catholic. You have to be a good steward. But the technology isn't there. It simply isn't.
No, Resinello, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. I see Teslas all over the place. You want to know something? I have to admit, maybe I have to go to confession for this. I really like the Tesla.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm kind of jealous of the guy driving the Tesla. And you want to know what? I will buy a Tesla. Joe, I'm not going to lie to you or anybody else out there. I can't afford a $45,000 car right now. I cannot do it. The price,
it's also,
you're right.
Joe, it's not a practical car if you had to drive far. Like if they made it so whereby, like, say, I'm going to make this up, the buses, local buses in whatever town were electric. Right now, maybe that technology is there, but I've used this example on other shows. But like, if I have a kid who goes to school in Ohio and I live in New Jersey and I have to drop him or her off in college, and you break down in Bumble Screw, Pennsylvania, with your electric car, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
And this is reality.
Yes.
And this is what I'm saying. The technology isn't there. And that's why ideology trumps results. They're willing to let you suffer. Listen, this is what you voted for. And I have said this to people at work, because people complain about the violence that's going on in New York City, in the subways, the filth on the streets. And I have said this straight out to people. Guys, this is what we voted for.
That's right.
I've said it straight out.
Joe Resinello, baby, listen, baby. It's like, you remember, like, what's his name? Dick Vitale? Yeah. Hey, baby.
I know Dick.
You voted for it.
New Jersey.
That's right. Dick Vitale, Paisan. You voted for it, baby.
That's right.
Don't blame
I don't want to hear
else.
it. And I have said this to people. I have said this to them. I'm like, listen, this is what the proverbial we voted for. You can't have it both ways, guys. And listen, that's why this isn't a middle class idea.
Right.
This is not a middle class idea. And you're deluding yourself if you think it is.
Yes.
And I have said this. I have said this time and time again. This party is not for you.
Now,
it's not.
Well, Joe, let me ask you a question. I'm going to get a little long-winded for a minute on the Crusade channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. By the way, guys, just so everybody knows out there, going to say this a few times. Starting next week on Joe and my social media at the Frontline TV and the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Facebook, YouTube, and all that fun stuff, okay? We're going to begin to go live on Monday nights moving forward, just so everybody knows, okay? Just a shift in our schedules. And it's the way it's got to be, but we love talking to you all on social media. So I just want to let you know, Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll talk about that more as the week goes on. Joe, let me give you some examples. Let me give it, Joe. I'm going to be the guy who goes like this. All right. I'm gonna toss you some softballs, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm very happy with the way some Republicans, some of whom are good and faithful Catholics, and some of those who promote policies that we would consider to be acceptable to faithful Catholics. Okay. Let me talk to you about a couple. I want to throw some ideas out to you. Okay. J.D. Vance, he's running in the Ohio Senate race. Now, J.D. is a convert, if what I remember, to Catholicism. Okay. Whereas he's running against Tim Ryan. Joe, we haven't used this word in a while, so I'm going to use it. Disgraziat. Okay. That's what he is. He's a disgraziat Irish Catholic, was pro-life up until the time he decided he wanted to run for national office. Then all of a sudden he started to realize that women face tough choices. So now I'm pro-baby killing. Tim, you have to answer to Jesus Christ at some point in the future. And I'm not judging you, but you are a disgraziad in the real world. That's what you are. In the Ohio Senate race, Joe, Republican J.D. Vance is running against Tim Ryan by noting that Democrats and multinational corporations share the same preferred policy positions. Vance is also looking to push the GOP toward a populist agenda that takes on the excesses, and this is where I want you to comment, Joe, the excesses of big business. That used to be a Democrat talking point. Antitrust, that used to be a talking point for the Democrats. Level fairness in markets. Democrats used to talk about that. Boosting small and medium-sized businesses. Democrats used to talk about that. Joe, the Democrats are not in favor of those things anymore. Okay? But yet, J.D. Vance and other conservative Republicans like him, Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley, you know what, Joe? Not for nothing. They're socially conservative, but they're talking like they want the government to start favoring the middle and working class. And quite frankly, as we said earlier, the Democrats are not doing that. And that's the Democrats' problem. And that's where Republicans can capitalize. Joe Rossinello, your comments.
Well, dude, they see the opening. You got to capitalize on it. I mean, we saw that with the Trump folks. I mean, people were quick to say, "Oh, they're stupid." No, they're not.
No, they're not.
That family that I just talked about. If anything, many of those people are practical people. They're practical people. Like I can't fill up my tank. Joe. I can't go to work. I don't have the money to feed my family. That doesn't make you stupid. That makes you practical. And frankly, like I said, the energy with regard to electricity fueling all gas car travel isn't there. And they're willing to hijack your life.
Yes.
See, don't paint it any other way than that, because that's exactly what it is. And the only people who can afford it are people who have money. Let's be real and be honest, and let's call them out. Because
Joe,
that's what you voted for. And Joe, I don't want to hear it, dude.
Joe, let me ask you a question. I'd love for you to define, though. Please do. I'm going to kick it right back to you. Then we're going to get into teachers unions. Joe, define what it means to have money. Let me tell you something. If you're a working couple in Bergen County, New Jersey, Essex County, New Jersey, making $300,000 a year, let me tell you something. $5 a gallon gas affects you too. Because you're trying. Because number one, if you're making that kind of money in New Jersey, Joe, they consider you're rich. First of all, you're rich in the eyes of the state and the federal government. You probably live in a decent home, okay? But they're charging you up to you know what in property tax, okay? Yeah, $5. You're not rich if you're making $300,000 as a married couple, let's say in New Jersey. So guess what? The scale is going up. Everybody's affected, Joe, from $300,000-$400,000 right down the line. You're talking about all this inflation. Every time you go to the store, Joe, you have 5 kids. By the way, thank you for sending a picture of little Maria. My wife got it. Maria is beautiful. That's Joe and his wife's youngest, okay, who was born last year. How old is she now, Joe? 9 months?
October 1 is her birthday. She'll be 1 October 1st.
The day before mine.
Little flower.
So Maria's beautiful. But you have to buy diapers for little Maria Okay.
And Jerry's still in diapers too.
and
I'll be
Jerry's
in
still in
diapers soon as well.
I was going to say, by the time you're done paying for diapers, you're going to be in diapers. But leaving that aside, Joe, not for nothing, they make it seem like a couple $100,000 a year
No,
is
but
a
in
lot
all
of money.
honesty, most people don't. You see, this is the thing. People could look at numbers like, say, $300,000, and to a lot of people, that is a lot of money. And I absolutely agree. Most people don't make that. You see, that's the thing. This is what I'm talking about. Most people don't make that.
Right.
And that's even in like wealthy states like Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Jersey, California, where there's a lot of employment. Most people don't make $300,000 a year. Yet gas. I have a 4-cylinder 2002 Toyota Echo. It cost me to fill it up. It was very, very low, $41 to fill up a 4-cylinder car.
Joe, that's because that's an 8-gallon tank.
But this is most people don't drive a 4-cylinder car. And here's another thing. I take the bus into New York City. I don't drive 60 miles back and forth from work. How about the small businessman that owns a plumbing business, an electrician business that has vans on the road? How about a delivery business that's going through the Lincoln Tunnel at $18 a toll every time they go through? They're getting killed.
But they're getting killed, Joe. But here's the point. They're getting killed. Let's face it. I'm sorry. Okay. They're getting killed by Democrat policies. That's the reason why, because Democrats, I said this to people. Joe, let me tell you a little funny story. And then we do have to get into the teachers union. Our producer's like hounding us to get into the teachers union. However, I told the girl, looked at me. She's a bartender in the restaurant I was working in, right? She knew I voted for Trump. This is back in 2017 after Trump passed the tax cut, okay? She looked at me. She turned around. She goes, your boy cost me a lot of money. And I'm going to not make it a long-winded story. I said, what do you mean? First of all, who's my boy? I said, my boy is Jesus Christ. Hopefully I'm his, okay? Not Donald Trump. So I reject that right off the bat. Yeah, I voted for him, and I voted for judges and tax cuts and things like that. She goes, yeah, because I can't take certain exemptions and deductions and things like that. And I said, okay. I said, I know how much you make because we work in the same place. So I said, you make about 80, 100 grand a year as a bartender. Plus, as an actress, you make about another 80 grand. I said, your party says you're rich. Not Donald Trump. Your party says you're rich. You're a single woman in New York City making 100 grand a year. They're the ones telling you have to pay your fair share. They're not talking to people they're talking to everybody. My point is, don't complain because you're making $180,000 a year as a single woman in New York City. You're rich in your party's mind. Don't blame Donald Trump. Blame Chuck Schumer. Blame Jerry Nadler. Blame all those people in New York City who say that someone like you is rich. It gets tiresome, Joe. It really does. In other words, they want to complain about taxes. It's your party that's doing it.
There's no question. But people have to put down what it is, too. It's political identity. Like, people don't believe in God anymore. So their identity is their political party. And they're not willing to put it down. They just ignore that. Like, that's the sickness of a lot. I call it political schizophrenia. Like, you have someone who's literally beating you. They're beating you over the back, and you continue to enable them to do it. And that's the sickness of it. And they rationalize it away. They pretend like it was somebody else, when in fact, step away from it. This is self-imposed pain because, again, ideology trumps results. They fundamentally do not believe in the country as it is, and they want to change it.
Right.
And that's it. And here's the thing. Like I say to people at work, you like the crime? You voted for it.
That's right.
You don't this is what you voted for. I don't want to hear it.
Joe, remember the old joke where the guy goes to the doctor and he raises his arm and he says, Doc, it hurts when I do this. And the doctor says, then don't do that. If it hurts when you do it, stop doing it. Okay, now that's a Henny Youngman joke. It's an old joke going back to the 1950s. But guess what? It's got some meaning. It's got some meaning to it. If it hurts when you do that, don't complain about it. Stop doing it. And I think you made a very good point. Let's move forward a little bit here. Joe Resinello at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. Joe, culture war, spiritual battle. To me, it's all the same thing. I think as Catholics, we would say that this is a spiritual battle. If you want to teach a 5-year-old boy he could be a girl or vice versa, or promote sodomy and all that, it's a spiritual battle. It's not just a culture war, but it is a culture war. So we want to be clear with our audience members out there. So the Republicans, and again, I hate to make it sound a matter of parties. I would like to say more the conservatives in the Republican Party, more than anything, okay, we're making some headway, Joe, because number one, as we mentioned in prior shows, the Supreme Court is backing. This is what bothers the left. This is what transcends Roe versus Wade, Joe Rossinello, is that the Supreme Court is signaling a retreat from the culture war. Now, is it to our liking? Not on abortion. We would hope they would ban abortion, but we're realists and we know they're not there yet. Okay. But nonetheless, they're signaling, no, this is a you problem. We're returning this to the states. Contraception, gay marriage, abortion, all of it, the EPA. These are all big rulings. Okay. So in that way, the Supreme Court is helping us in the culture war by backing out. Okay. These are Joe Rossinello, these are very big gains. And the teachers' unions and their media sycophants, okay, they're distorting the polls to hide the fact that conservatives, Joe, have scored some major, Joe Rossinello, major wins in the culture war. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, let's just talk about the article. Jordan Boyd in the Federalist talks about a poll commissioned by the American Federation of Teachers that shows a plurality of voters in swing states such as Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin plan to vote for Republican senators, 46%, and governors, 46% in the upcoming midterms, and at least 47% said they prefer a Republican-controlled Congress. I mean, obviously that's a shift because, let's be honest, the teachers union forever owns the Democratic Party. But again, they overplayed their hand. They simply overplayed their hand. If they just left it at this, a man and a man can get married, which clearly we don't support.
Agree with,
we're
right.
Catholic. But if they left it there, this would not be going on. They took it too far. They took it too far. They want to teach a second grader, and I'm not making this up because this is exactly what Ron DeSantis railed against.
Please elaborate on that, Joe, please.
A second grader about sodomy. No, sorry, can't do that. Don't care. I don't even want to teach a second grader, to be honest with you, about heterosexual sense. It's not your place. It's my place. And here's the thing. I pay taxes too, guys. You don't like my ideology? Well, you have an ideology too, and I don't like it. So keep it out as well. You want to keep my ideology out? All right. I want yours out because I pay taxes too. Now they're starting to say, oh, this isn't freedom. Bull crap. How about we just become neutral? They're not looking for neutrality, but that's another story. They went too far. Here's another thing that they went too far on. The COVID stuff. Many people could not send their kids to school for up to 2 years. I talked to a friend of mine who works in my business. He's a lawyer, lives in Woodbury, Long Island. It's a pretty nice town. Westbury, Long Island, nice town. He has a daughter. He said she's very smart, and I believe it because my friend James is a bright guy. He said she's behind. And that's in an upper class town. I don't even want to know what has happened to working class towns across America because the teachers union used this as an emergency, quote unquote, to get more money from the federal government. And that's exactly what they did. And people should be aggravated. I've been saying this forever, that the public schools are poison. Forever that they're poison. I laugh because this is what I hear constantly. Now, let me first say this. Are there good teachers? Absolutely.
Sure there are.
Absolutely. The people who run the unions, they always say it's about the kids. Your ass. That's a fancy New Jersey term.
I love that term, Joe Rossinello. Your ass.
That is I've been hearing that forever.
Joe, I remember when I first said that to my wife, like a long time ago, when we first started our relationship back in 2011, I think at some point she said something, and I went, your ass. She never heard that because your wife and my wife are sisters, and they're from Connecticut. They don't know the term "your ass." So
Well,
sometimes you got to educate
it's very
people.
apropos. I mean,
Sure,
like
your ass.
exactly.
I heard that my whole life. I grew up with that. I heard the first words I learned when I was a little baby was "mommy, daddy," and "hey, your ass." And my mother used to
There it
say,
is.
"What did it
But
tell
I
you that?"
mean, like this is it's a
But
joke.
real quick. But sometimes we're joking a little bit, but we're not joking. Sometimes you just want to look at the Randy Weingartens of the world, okay, the public teachers, unions, cronies, their handlers, and say, "You want to know something? Your ass." I don't have to make an argument why 5-year-old boys shouldn't be taught that they should be girls. I don't have to make an argument why a 5-year-old shouldn't be taught about sex. Okay. I don't have to make an argument for that. Once in a while, Joe, we have to say two things. The first thing is no. The answer is no. And the second thing, as you brought up, is your ass. Why do we have to go beyond that? Because you know what? No and your ass means common sense. Just common sense. You're not teaching. That's what DeSantis is going through right now in Florida. Yeah, I heard that leftist hack actor, Ron Perlman. He did it. I love guys like this. They sit there, Joe, and they make their videos on Twitter. You fascist Nazi Ron DeSantis. Who are you to say don't say gay? We have a First Amendment. No, we don't, Ron. No, we don't. First of all, you would condemn me and Joe for saying the things that we want to say on our show. That's number one. And number two, in the public schools, you don't have a First Amendment right to say whatever you want. The government tells you what you could say as a teacher because you work for the government. So you have free speech in the free marketplace of ideas. But no, Ron, no, you don't get to just say what you want whenever you want. And you want to know what? He's a hypocrite because he would agree with it. But this is what we're dealing with. Joe, I want to read you something. I want to kick it over to you. Randy Weingarten, she used these polls.
Who is she? Tell everyone who she is.
She's basically the AFT president, the American Federation of Teachers president. She is the diametrical opposite of Eva Moskowitz, okay, who in New York City has been promoting charter schools, okay, which do an infinitely better job than the public schools. But Randy Weingarten is a public school establishment hack. That's what she is. And Joe, she has a lot of power. She tried to minimize these polls, okay? And she said in a speech, which was headlined by Jill Biden, who, by the way, recently compared Hispanic Americans to breakfast tacos in Texas. So again, Joe, I say that only because not to attack her, but we're always told they're smart people. So Jill Biden is one of the smart people. She compared our Hispanic brothers and sisters to breakfast tacos in Texas. Let's remember that. This is what Randy Weingarten said. She said, quote, "Too many politicians stoke grievances rather than solve problems." Okay. They should be helping us. They should be helping us help our kids in our communities, not making it harder with their culture wars and division. Close quote. Joe, here's my response. I'm going to hand it over to you. You started the culture war.
It's such projection. I read that. She goes on, actually, and she says, by voting for politicians who focused on things like book banning, culture wars, and injecting division into classrooms. What book banning? That I don't want my second grader to know about homosexual sex?
Right.
I don't want it. If that's what you call book banning, well, then I'm all for it. How about we just be agnostic? And we could call a compromise. You're not willing to be agnostic. You see, this is the hypocrisy. And sadly, this is where people have to see through it. She's backpedaling because she is losing the war right now.
Right.
And this is, but people, Joe, I swear, they're so brainwashed. It's so sad. It is so sad. I mean, I listened to like, they just regurgitate the talking point. It's pathetic. But here's the problem why we have this issue is because the teachers union, let's be honest, it's always about money, Joe, because this is what's wrong with New Jersey. New Jersey isn't, you see, a lot of people, I know the Crusade Channel, broadcasts out of Louisiana. They don't know New Jersey politics. New Jersey isn't as blue as you may think.
I believe that.
That is an absolute fact. And in fact, and I know many people, including my church, was following the New Jersey election. Murphy won by less than 1 point to a guy who was a nobody. What was his name? Chittarelli.
He was
I met him.
I met him.
Yeah, I remember. You met
at
him at Mount Carmel Feast.
in Lyndhurst. And he is not. I'm not going to call him a rhino, but I'm not going to turn around and say he's. He would stab us in the back. Okay, he would have been a legit, maybe along the lines of a Chris Christie, conservative as best you could get in New Jersey. I firmly believe he beat Murphy.
But he was a
But
nobody.
leaving that
Joe.
aside.
He
What's
was
that?
like he should have gotten the machine.
Shouldn't have even been on the radar. And when you look at New Jersey
God,
politics,
the Democratic machine was behind Murphy.
Right.
He should have got
and
crushed.
still Murphy almost lost. And
By
still Murphy
less than
almost
1
lost.
point. The reason why I bring this up is the only reason, and I am guaranteeing that this is the way it is in other states where teachers' unions are strong, and a lot of states are, is because of the pension.
Right.
It's the pension. You see, in New Jersey, why New Jersey is blue is, and this is not necessarily teachers, but a lot of municipal workers.
Cops, firemen,
it's a
municipal
lottery
workers.
ticket.
Yes.
You're giving somebody $6,000. I'm not making this up. A month for the rest of their life. You're giving them a Cadillac benefit plan. I know this because my mother was a secretary for the Board of Education. I know what she gets, and I know what her medical benefits are. And she retired at 65 and she's 82. It's a lottery ticket. And this is why the problem exists. They basically dangle the carrot in front of these people and basically say, listen, I'm giving you all this money. You have to vote this way. And that's why New Jersey is a mess. Now, I don't want to listen. I'm not going to begrudge people their pension. I'm not. But I'm telling you why it exists. And that's why when I hear people who are involved in the NEA, the National Education Association, which is the largest union in America, say it's about the kids, I want to regurgitate on their shirt because it's the biggest crock of crap I've ever heard. It's about you. It's about your lottery ticket that's in your hand. And you don't care that the system doesn't work for the kid in Newark. You don't care that the system doesn't work for the kid in Patterson. And this is the argument I always put forth to people. You're all for socialized education. How about we do this? How about the rich towns and the poor towns all pool their money together? So one town's education system isn't diametrically better than, say, a working class person's education system, and everyone's the same. You'll watch them start to sweat. I actually said this to somebody at work one time who lived in a pretty nice town in Central Jersey, who hardcore Democrat. You watch them sweat because their kids. The model, a lot of people do, they buy into towns because they believe in public education, frankly, because, let's be honest, I mean, I don't believe in the cultural aspect of it, but a lot of towns in New Jersey have high test scores. That's unarguable. The school system's high test scores, some of the highest in America in terms of SATs, and that's why people buy into towns. However, I'm not interested in that. I want my kids to go to heaven before I want them to get into Harvard. Not that my kids could get into Harvard, but even if they did, I wouldn't want them there. But the point is that these people basically, dude, it's not about the kid. And I crack up. And this is, Joe, this is what's been going on. That's why New Jersey is twisted. And this is the problem.
Well, no, I agree. And listen, if they don't watch their butts, what's going to happen? What happened in Virginia is going to happen in New Jersey, and the next time the elections come around. And a lot of it is going to have to do with the fact that, like you said, okay, let's say I'm a guy of means and I want to send my child to public school in Bergen County. Okay, in one of the better schools, the public schools,
Ridgewood, Glen Rock,
Ridgewood. All right, and these are fine public schools as far as education, but of course they have to go along. Again, this conversation, Joe Rossinello at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. We're tying this into the culture war. You'll get that education in the suburbs. Okay. You'll learn how to read, write, and do math, probably more so than you will at Central High School in Newark. But what you will do in both schools is you're going to have to ingest the indoctrination, the leftist indoctrination.
Let me just say this, and to your point, if we'll use like Bergen County, New Jersey, which I'm very familiar with. I live in southern Bergen County, New Jersey. Northern Bergen County, New Jersey is very affluent. Very. You take like a town like Ridgewood, Hohokus, Glen Rock,
Saddle River, Upper Saddle River.
Absolutely. Alpine,
Sure.
very wealthy people. Those people, if they just said, two men could get married, they'd have no problem with it.
Right.
But now you're seeing transvestites, like you saw in Virginia, rape somebody. You're seeing athletes take the place of your little daughter who plays field hockey at Ridgewood High School, and now it affects them.
Right.
And now you see, this is where they blew it. And that's why our friend here, who's the president of the American Federation of Teachers,
Randy Weingarten,
Randy Weingarten, is starting to backpedal, because you're now affecting that parent. You pushed it too far.
Well, she wants to turn around, Joe. She wants to turn around. She said, quote, the AFT is also urging parents and teachers to take action by voting against politicians who are focused on things like book banning, culture wars, and injecting division into our classroom. You're the book banner, Randy. You and your teachers, you're the ones who ban books. You ban anything that was written by a white guy, whatever a white guy is. Okay, so you are the book burners, because you don't want students to be exposed to all ideas. So you are the book banners. You've brought the culture war into the public schools. Okay, that's why we're having this argument to begin with. You're the ones who banned public prayer in the public schools in the 1950s. You're the ones who brought the culture war and says you can't mention. You even want to tell a kid he can't wear a cross, okay, in a public school if his parents want him to wear it because it's offensive. You brought the culture war into the public school. And now what, Randy? You want to try to convince us all that you're the smartest person in the room, and you're not smart enough to know that for every action there is a reaction. You brought it in, Randy. You brought it into the public schools. And then when the parents say, absolutely effing not, you are not teaching this stuff to my kids. You're not burning books because you are the book burners. You're not going to tell my son or my daughter that that they could be somebody of the opposite sex. My daughter's going to bust her hump to be on the track team. You're not going to let a boy compete against her. Okay? You're not. But you brought it in, and now you're surprised. Are you really surprised the parents react? Is that a joke? And then you want to turn around and tell us all you're so smart and you didn't see this coming? You could try to demonize these people all you want. Joe, listen, Joe Rossinello at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade channel. What Virginia showed is something that you've been saying for a long time. Maybe all those people are watching the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You've said, mess with my kid. That goes beyond politics. That transcends party. And that's what oligarchs and oligarchic tools like Randy Weingarten and teachers unions don't get. You don't mess with people's kids. Even the people who might support you will say, I'm drawing the line. Am I wrong, Joe?
No, I mean, they went too far. And frankly, I'll be honest with you. If they were smart, they would learn from what happened to, say, Planned Parenthood. When you see states who push the abortion laws well beyond like what a normal person could digest, New York, third trimester abortion. I'm not making this up.
Right.
They pushed it. What's going to happen is you're going to start seeing cracks in the union. And what could happen is what's happening where you live right now in Arizona, where you're going to get charter school laws. And what's going to happen is you're going to have competition. And
Right.
that's going to bleed into the pension, because that means tax dollars are not going to if you look at your tax dollars in New Jersey, you could look at the breakdown. A good percentage of that money goes to the school system. I pay that, and I don't send my kids to the school system. The reason why I live here is because my employment is in New York City. I mean, and if you weigh it, it overcompensates. But I live in a small house because I try to keep my taxes low.
Right.
So I have to think about that as well. But my point is this: the cracks in the union are going to begin to show. There needs to be a union. I don't begrudge teachers their salary. We should pay them. But here's the thing: I'm not interested in ideology. And here's the deal: my opinion counts too, just like yours. And I'll compromise with you. No ideology. Just teach the subject.
That's not allowed,
But
Joe.
you see, that's where they're full of crap, and that's why people have to call them out.
But that's why we have to. But that's why. Listen, that's why we have to encourage things like. I'll give you an example. My wife is going to be teaching in the charter school here in Arizona. Okay. Now, because of that, our foster son, who please say a prayer for us, hopefully in the next few months is going to be our legal son. And it's moving along those lines. And I thank you all, because we mentioned it before on the show, for your prayers up till now. My foster son's going to be going there for what do you call it? 7 through 12. Okay. It's Joe, it's a charter school. Okay. They learn Latin. Okay. They're exposed to everything. It's a traditional Catholic education in a public school, in a charter school. Okay. They rely on donations, some state funding. And so people like me who don't have to pay a tuition, but I could still contribute, and I will. Okay. The public schools can't stand this school system here.
I thought it was
in
about the
Arizona.
kids, Joe. It's
What's
about the
that?
kids, right?
And these kids, Joe, these kids, let me tell you something. You got a kid who's a little bit lazy. Guess what? In this charter school, he ain't going to be lazy. And if he is, guess what? He's not going to be there very long. He or she. He's not going to be there very long. It's very rigorous. The standards are high. But you know what they have? What we talked about St. Benedict's. High graduation. Nearly every kid graduates. Most of them, 90% or more, go on to college. Not that that's the greatest thing in the world nowadays, but nonetheless, they go on to college if they choose to. The public schools can't deal with this, Joe Resinello. They're too busy trying to teach kids about gender ideology rather than teaching them the equation 2x plus 1 equals 3, okay, which is something you learn in the 8th grade. That's not important to them, but teaching them that they could become boys could become girls is and that's why they're losing.
Well, you know something, and this I'm just going to shift gears for a moment. That's where the Catholic Church fails. You see what's going on. They are trying to indoctrinate the culture into the culture war. That's exactly what they're doing, and we're seeing a lot of projection here by Randy Weingarten. Absolutely. Right. This is where I just say we just sit back as Catholics and we allow them to bulldoze us. Why does it have to be? Now, listen, not all Catholic schools are great. I get it. But I will say this, and this is something Cardinal Dolan has said, and I agree with it because I went to public school and I went to Catholic school. Was my Catholic school perfect? No. Am I perfect? No, but I don't let the good be the enemy of the perfect. Sadly, too many Catholics do, and all the bickering I can't get into. But right. I'm not one of those people. And I will say this. I went to public school, and a good one, in a pretty decent town. And I went to a Catholic school. Catholic school does it better. I'm telling you right now. And why is it that people who have money are the only people to afford it? Years ago, blue collar people like me and Joe got to go to Catholic school. And that was because religious were there. And because we don't have vocations is because we don't have strong Catholic families. That's where vocations come from. I'm digressing, but the point is this. We should not allow our children as a Catholic church to enter the public school where their minds get soiled with crap.
Right.
But we do. And then we're shocked that our kids are twisted and buy into the lies. We're surprised. Why? Why are you surprised? You're following the rest of the lemmings right off the cliff.
Right.
And then you're shocked when your son is living with his girlfriend. And then you're shocked when your daughter had an abortion and she's a basket case after the fact. Then you're shocked while your son has a crappy marriage because he married someone who all they care about is money. And it's not grounded on anything like substantive. You're shocked. Don't be shocked.
Right.
And this is where the Catholics, I just sit there and their kids are getting steamrolled. That's the sick part. They're getting steamrolled.
And when you get a faithful administration of a Catholic school run by faithful Catholics, those same parents who you were describing are shocked at everything. They're the ones who push back. When you say, let's say for argument's sake, I remember back in the 80s at Seton Hall Prep. Okay, my teachers would talk about, you had to take morality classes, Christian ethics, scripture, all of it in your 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, and high school, and senior. And I remember the teacher talking about gay marriage, saying, no, the church is against homosexuality, not homosexual. I learned it when I was in high school. Now, did I absorb it? No, because I was a skull full of mush, and I was always a C student because I was lazy. But having said that, I remember that they used to do that then. Now, if they do that, the same parents you're describing, Joe, would call the bishop and say, why are you teaching against homosexuality? And the bishop's not going to say, well, you know what? The church that runs the school that you sent your kid to, we teach that the condition of homosexuality is a disorder, and then to act on it is a sin. You want to talk about rich parents getting all bent out of shape in northern Bergen County at Bergen Catholic or Paramus Catholic or any of these schools? The lay people are just as much to blame.
Well, they
for
are,
what goes
and
on.
that's where the church is off. But I'll tell you this: what says it all to me is at my kid's school. It's a Catholic grammar school. There's a cop. That they hire the cop. He has a gun, and he's in front of the school every day, making his presence known. And I got to know him. He's a nice guy, Officer Tim, very nice guy. And he's also worked in a public school. He's a retired lieutenant. He told me, he said, Joe, I'm going to tell you this right now. And he has no vested interest. He's like, these teachers care. He's like, they care. They don't make the money that the public school teachers make. And he's like, the teachers in the public school that I've encountered, they're just collecting a check. And that to me says it all. There are people there who have a mission. They believe in the education. Again, I'm not going to let the good be the enemy of the perfect. Are my kids memorizing the friggin' Thomas Aquinas's, no, they're not. But they do sing songs in my van when I drive them about God. They do know their prayers. And that is good with me at this age. I'll take it. And what Officer Tim told me, that these teachers care, says all I need to know.
Right.
The Catholics do it better, but I'm not even going to go there. The church allows. They should make it where all kids can get a Catholic education. Why is it that only people of means can? It's not fair. It simply is not.
Joe, let me tell you something. I said we have to end it there. It's a great place to end it. There's a lot to talk about next week at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on the Crusade Channel, always on air and always online at crusadechannel.com. Remember, on social media, we're going to be going live on Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern time for the foreseeable future. Okay. It's only because Joe and I don't make anything. We love doing this. We are always and eternally grateful to Mike Church for giving us a platform on the Crusade Channel. We do our social media. We don't make any money, but we have to pay the bills. So when schedules change a little bit, in this case, it's mine that's changing a little bit, we're going to go live on social media Monday nights. Joe, listen, the faster we start to realize that, yes, this is about our kids. I don't really care, Joe, when it comes to your kids, when it comes to our foster son, who will be our legal son, and anybody else who we adopt. Okay. I don't care about their arguments anymore, Joe. When you tell me that your kids are singing songs about Jesus, when they're learning their prayers, okay, to me, at the end of the day, I'm to the point in my life where that's all that matters. I'm really just I'm to the point now where I don't care about anything else other than making sure that as many kids as possible go to heaven. All right. But we need to try to enlighten our Catholic brothers and sisters, our parents out there, about all these things that are going on and to fight against it. All right. To raise your voice, to raise your consciousness, and don't let them have their way. So we have to leave it there, Joe Ressinello. I think it was a very important discussion tonight on the Crusade Channel. We want to thank you all for joining us. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon. You have to go. So we want to thank everybody for joining us at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Ressinello on the Crusade Channel. And wherever you see Joe and I on social media, please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Help us out if you can. Remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.